We received a ton of recommendations from you guys to check out Thorgi's Build the Roster videos. I don't know exactly how this works, but we're fans of both BlazBlue and Guilty Gear, so I'm kind of interested to see how a crossover game, I'm assuming, would work out. I've been hoping and wishing for this, and this was originally part of the joke that we made, and then Serbia was like, but what if ArcSys made a Marvel game, and then Marvel ToeCon got announced, so yeah, perfect time to do this, I suppose.
Let's manifest more. Put it out there.
Manifest destiny! Oh, wait a minute. But anyways, dudes, Thorgi's videos are incredibly entertaining and informative. And if you guys haven't gone to support him yet, please do so. Link to that is at the very top of the description, as always.
Hey there, folks. Before we get into our brand new episode of Build the Roster, I've got a question.
There's
Do
so
you
many
like fighting
episodes.
games?
I
Do you like watching someone really bad at fighting games struggle to play them for a week straight?
do. Yes.
I hope so.
What? No! My entire audience would be here. That's exactly why they're watching me. Everybody's like, bro, how do you mess up a double down input? I'm sorry, I pressed the wrong button, okay, guys? My hand-eye coordination not good.
I can't do any of it.
What if I said it was for charity?
Yeah!
Hey, there we go. Yes, it's time for our second annual Fight for the Future charity stream. Last year we did a
Awesome. I didn't know
week-long
you
stream
did
over
this.
on Twitch at twitch.tv/Professor Thorgi to raise money to buy medical supplies for doctors in the midst of the pandemic. And this year we're doing it
Hell
again.
yeah.
Starting on July 19th at 10 a.m.
I mean, that's kind of one of my dreams, that if we ever became big enough,
Same.
I kind of wanted to do a charity event.
No, same. I would love to do charity streams.
Yeah.
That would be like, if my channel is big enough that I could like sustain myself and then actually use that leftover to put into charity and raise more for that. That would be like my ideal scenario.
Maybe someday. We're still working on it.
a.m. Eastern Standard Time and going for a week straight, 9 to 10 hours every single day. I will be playing fighting games to help raise money for Doctors Without Borders. We'll be announcing the full lineup of games soon, but I can tell you right now, we have got a lot on this year's schedule, like 80 games. It's going to be a doozy. So make sure to stay tuned here or follow us on Twitter at Thorgi's Arcade to get the full announcement. And if you missed out on last year's stream, we're uploading the whole thing right now over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Professor Thorgi. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's get on with the main attraction and talk about people with crazy hair and giant belts fighting each other. You know, business as usual here on Build the Roster.
Actually, did Stripe release yet? Yeah, okay. Looks like it did. Because I saw excerpt footage and I was like, might be older Guilty Gear.
Have you played P4 Arena?
I own it. I haven't played it yet. Because people have warned me that there are P3 characters in there that I would be spoiled on. So
Oh, yeah, there are P3 characters. That's true.
we'll check out P3 after P5 Royal.
Gotcha.
We should almost be done with P5. Hopefully.
Well, this is a special time of the year.
So long.
I don't. Has it almost reached like more than a year, almost 2 years now that we've been playing through P5?
I think you're creeping into 2 years territory. It's been
Jesus.
over a year for sure.
We have 190 hours of playtime and we're still not done.
Oh my god.
The days are longer, grills are being sparked up, the beach is open and just ready for once-in-a-lifetime memories to be made, and we will not be taking part in any of that because Guilty Gear is back, baby! Yes, the latest installment in one of the biggest and craziest fighting game franchises is finally here,
Strive is
and
so
I
good.
can't tell you how excited I am. I have loved Guilty Gear ever since the early 2000s when I picked up on a whim a copy of X2 Reload. I knew nothing about the series, but it instantly won me over with its quick combat, stylish sprite work, and most importantly, the characters, world, and music that were just overflowing with personality.
Incredible.
Since then, I've eagerly awaited each new installment in this series, and this month, Guilty Gear Strive has finally released, and I am obsessed with it. But you know, things weren't always this good for the Guilty Gear fans. No, you see, a couple of years ago, Arc System actually lost the rights to their flagship series, and they needed something new to fill that giant, edgy anime fighter hole in our hearts. And so they created BlazBlue, and I remember when a friend of mine was the first in our group to buy a PS3, we all head over to his place to check it out, and he popped in a copy of BlazBlue. And after one round of...
Bro, oh, BlazBlue looks so good. It plays so good. It's just so fun. But I can understand, especially with Central Fiction, because of all the mechanics that they've added onto this game that was supposed to be an introduction to beginners to fighting games, it has actually become that complex fighting game with so many extra mechanics that would just blow up your brain if you were new to it.
It became what it hoped to destroy.
I mean, eventually it was going to become that. You could go back and still play like the first one and then go through each one and build up your experience like that. But regardless, it has been so much fun, and the art style is just so iconic. It just feels good to play. I have a whole lot of praise to say about it. I have a whole lot of praise for Guilty Gear Strive as well, but honestly, I've been thinking of just making my own video on that subject, so we'll see. I'm still in the process of writing the script for that. Like, I mean, these games introduced me to fighting games, and I fell in love with them instantly. There has to be a reason why. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Seeing these characters and feeling these buttons, we all agreed on one thing. These characters needed to cross over with Guilty Gear. Yeah. And we weren't the only ones to think that at the time. It almost felt like fate that these two would one day cross over. They had the same over-the-top anime aesthetics, quick gameplay, iconic insta-kills, mountains of lore that made zero sense to us in the pre-Wikipedia days. Hell, the team that worked on Guilty Gear was called Team Red, and the team that worked on BlazBlue was called Team Blue. If the internet has taught me anything, it's that those two colors do not get along and are destined to fight. And I remember as soon as Arc Systems got the rights to Guilty Gear back, they returned with Guilty Gear Xrd Sign, and seeing these two franchises now being released side by side stoked the fires of friendly competition in a way that we have not seen since the great Street Fighter Mortal Kombat debates of the 90s. I'm going to have to do that crossover someday too, aren't I?
Yeah, we'll watch that. It's probably already out, but we'll get to it whenever we learn about the lore of those series. Honestly, I know that a lot of people suggested that we check this out immediately, but I'm kind of thankful that we learned about the lore behind BlazBlue and Guilty Gear first before checking this out, because now we have a stake in the game. Like, we know what we're talking about.
No, yeah, 100%. I think that this video is only going to be fun after you know both franchises.
Yeah. Which is why there has been a lot of suggestions for the Marvel vs. Capcom one as well. We might have to learn about Marvel vs. Capcom first before we can understand how the roster would actually work out, so we can give our input. But yeah.
But despite these cries for a crossover, we never even got a whiff of them together. Never even saw some promo art of the characters staying together. Not even a blurry photo of a pitch written on a sticky note in a writer's room somewhere. Nothing. Even when BlazBlue got their own crossover game, a crossover game that pulled in almost every single fighting franchise Arc Systems had.
That's so hilarious, actually. We don't have Guilty Gear in BB Tag, but we have Akatsuki. And we have the giant tank. I gotta learn BB Tag someday. This is gonna be a whole lot of fun.
Ever touched Persona Arena, Under Night Rebirth, Arcana Heart. The only fighter franchise not to appear was Guilty Gear.
Yeah.
We got the freaking tank from Akatsuki.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. It's a freaking tank.
Let's comp a game 90% you didn't even know was a thing until I said it right now.
Yeah.
But we couldn't get Soul Bad Guy and Ragnar the Blood Edge to do the Ryu Cyclops handshake. Apparently that was asking too much. Well, screw it. Guilty Gear is back. The whole world is talking about it. It's selling better than any Guilty Gear game ever. So today on Build a Roster, we're going to cross these worlds together to create the craziest, most over-the-top, hypest anime fighter ever.
Oh, this is going to be so good.
Considering these are both Arc System properties, I can only assume it will also have the most insane versus screen of all time.
Heaven or hell, duel one, let's rock!
The wheel of fate is turning. Rebel 1, action!
First cross, divide.
Can't escape from crossing fate. Fight!
Yeah, that's the stuff.
What was that?
Now, as always, we have to start by figuring out how many characters to include. I'll try not to make this overly complicated, but there is a lot to consider here.
There's a lot.
First off, it's a crossover game, so the roster has to be pretty big to include a good variety of characters from both sides. We need to get a combination of old classics, new faces, a variety of playstyles, and we need that for both teams. However, this would be the first crossover between both franchises, and the first crossover in a series always tends to have the smallest roster simply because the first game has the most that you have to establish in terms of gameplay, and you have the least number of pre-existing resources to pull from. Now, I feel like for the first time that two series have crossed over, 20 feels decent. You don't want to dip below double digits for either side, but at the same...
Yeah, okay. I mean, that makes sense. I was watching Maximilian go over like what his roster was going to be for Marvel Tokon, and he did mention that in the first like Marvel versus Capcom that they had like 20 or so as a starting roster.
I think Tokon is a little bit of a different situation considering it's a 4v4 tag.
Yeah, it would have to be bigger for sure. But it's still a valid point.
His roster is hilarious. He's so
it's just X-Men.
Capcom coded. It's really funny.
My guess is that Soul Bad Guy and Ragnar are definitely going to be on the roster. I'd bet $100
you can't
on
not
that.
have the MCs. Like, that's the only guarantee.
Imagine if they did it.
Ragnar and Soul aren't in the game as playables. They're the story villains.
Oh my god. Actually, though, they're like their ultimate versions, and you only unlock them after beating them.
That actually would be sick.
They would be locked behind content that is too hard for people to get through. No!
In true Arx's style.
Or pay $5 for the DLC. If I had to think of a character that might not make it into the roster, maybe Giovanna, if I'm being honest. Because like she's the newest one, and I don't know like how iconic she would be to the majority of the Guilty Gear fan base.
Either.
Yeah. No, we need Axel. We need Baiken. We need Zato. Kai not being there would be impossible. Kai has to fight Jin. Those two have to go at it.
Yes, you need Kai v Jin. Yes, you're right. I feel like Ramlethal and Alpha, you kind of like you can't not have them, right?
You can't not have Ito either. You can't not have everybody. Like, honestly, if I'm thinking of it, it's just like the new characters introduced in Strive, which might not have as much of a pull. Although, like, Nagori Yuki is really cool, though.
Question mark. I think she could get left behind. Because I think if you were going to pick a Bedman, you'd take the original Bedman.
Honestly, true. Like, the original Bedman is a little more iconic, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
New
Even
Bedman is
she's,
interesting,
like, a cool
but
character.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Her whole relationship with Baiken was super sweet, too.
If we were going to take a new character, it would probably be Nagoriyuki.
Yeah, Nago he's kind of a staple. He's also like the big bad, quote unquote, in the arcade mode for Guilty Gear Strive. And people are going to remember him, that's for sure. Happy Chaos? Imagine Happy Chaos.
Oh, yeah, I could see Happy Chaos too, though. I love Happy Chaos so much.
Okay, we'll let Thorgi do this. We're getting a little too into it. Sorry, guys.
Time, if you have a new game out in one of these series, you don't want either side to go larger than the starting roster of that game. I mean, part of the purpose of a crossover game is to promote the series in question, and if Series A has New Game B out, but crossover Game C has more characters from Series A than New Game B, then why would people buy New Game B when they can get crossover Game C and have more characters from Series A?
Gotcha.
Remember when I said I wasn't going to make this overly complicated? What the hell was I thinking? Well, yeah, Guilty Gear has a new game out with a starting roster of 15 characters, so for BlazBlue Cross Guilty Gear, we need to have fewer than that on each side, so that means that we need to have...
I mean, with the starting roster here, we don't even have Happy Chaos as an option, so that's off the table, unfortunately.
True.
RIP.
Sad.
Just put Eno in, I'll be happy.
Have more than 10, but less than 15, which comes out to 12 and a half, damn it. Well, that means that we're now going to have to decide between 12 or 13 on each side, and in my heart of hearts, I know that Arc Systems normally has small starting rosters, so I know that they would go with 12. But at the time of this recording, Guilty Gear Strive is selling incredibly well. They just announced that in its first week, it already sold 3 times what its last game sold in its entire lifetime, and Steam reports that at launch, it had more people playing it than Mortal Kombat 11, Street Fighter 5, and Tekken 7 did in their entire lifespans. That is huge. And since that game is so new, we would be able to reuse a ton of assets.
I mean, Guilty Gear Strive just looks cool. It's that aspect of this fighting game looks awesome. I don't know how to play fighting games, but I want to learn how to play this cool looking game.
I mean, that is the whole thing. Like, so many fighting games have done this to me in the past, but I'm like, I love the design. I love the idea of a fighting game. I'm just so bad at it. But Guilty Gear Strive made me really want to try, and I really did try, but I still am just not I am not cut out for fighting games, and I'm so sad by that.
That being said, there was the computer failure, so you could enjoy it, and it's just circumstances that led to a whole lot of things. We'll find a fighting game for you, Survey. We will. Even
It's on the horizon.
yeah, on the horizon.
I'll try again. I'll keep trying.
Sets from an in here. So you know what? If I was put in charge, and this is the game that I had to design, I would throw that newfound popularity and cash around and give us up to 13 on each side for a total of 26.
Yeah!
So now that that's out of the way, there's one other thing that I want to cover before we get to the actual roster. Normally, we never talk about how these games would play because typically we cover sequels to existing franchises, but this crossover game would be the first of its kind. So I'm sure that someone out there is wondering how we would combine the playstyles of Guilty Gear and BlazBlue. So for that one person out there, let's tackle that real quick. They would actually fit together pretty well. You see, Guilty Gear has 4 basic attacks: punch, kick, slash, and heavy slash, while BlazBlue has 3 basic attacks: light, medium, and hard. So for this game, we would use the 4 buttons of Guilty Gear and make each BlazBlue character's light, medium, and heavy match up with the punch, slash, and heavy slash button, while giving each BlazBlue character a brand new kick attack. Unless, of course, their light attack was already a kick, then we would give them a brand new punch attack. As for the unique mechanics to include from Guilty Gear, I would take the Roman cancels, which are ways to cancel an action to reset a combo and slow down your opponent if you time it just right. And the dust attacks, a 5th attack which acts as a universal overhead that can send your opponents flying. And from BlazBlue, I would include their drive actions, which are unique actions for every single character that can range from a special attack to charging up a meter. So,
well, the thing is, characters from Guilty Gear you could technically consider as having a drive. Like, look at Soul's weapon, right?
Yeah, a lot of them have that additional mechanic.
Yeah. So, yeah, it fits.
In other words, this would basically be a 6-button game, with each character having a punch, kick, slash, and heavy slash, as well as a dust attack and a drive button, and you could press certain buttons together to pull off the Roman cancels. I know BlazBlue also has an overdrive state that temporarily enhances your character, but I feel like that's one mechanic too many.
That's kind of just a bonus.
Or the Roman cancels, and we're not getting rid of the Roman cancels. And of course, we would keep the instant kills that these games are known for, but we would try to find a common ground between the executions in each game.
But don't bring the Guilty Gear Xrd ones. I think the BlazBlue ones are okay. The Guilty Gear ones might be a little OP.
In both games, you can only use the instant kills in the final round, but in Guilty Gear, you can activate it at any time as long as you're willing to give up your super meter. In BlazBlue, you have to have your super meter full, and you can only use it if your opponent is below a certain life total. So I'd say for this crossover game, your super meter will still have to be full to activate the insta-kill, but your opponent's life total will no longer matter. As long as you've got full meter, you can activate it at any time. I feel like this takes the freedom of Guilty Gear's instant kills and restrictions of BlazBlue's and finds a nice balance between the two. Again, normally we don't cover how these hypothetical games would play, but it is shocking how easy it would be for these mechanics to merge.
I do think people would probably rage a little bit at that. I guess they would have to still build their meter up to 100. But like the thing with BlazBlue and why it feels okay is because like you're almost dead anyways, and it's the final round, and getting it off means that you probably got comboed. Whereas for Guilty Gear, it doesn't really care about your HP, does it? You're just dead.
It's just unsatisfying, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it might be unsatisfying. Or some people might feel like, yeah, it's unfair because they didn't get a chance.
That sounds like a skill issue.
Probably, yes.
Almost like it was destined to happen. Just throwing that out there into the universe and hoping that something comes from it.
I'm sure someday it'll
that's out of the way, it's time for what we came here for.
It has to be.
It is time to build that roster.
This is just free money.
So let's go ahead and start with the most obvious choice. Or should I say,
I feel like it
choices.
would mean they'd have to make 3D models for the BlazBlue characters, because I think they can't strive, like Guilty Gear won't go back to 2D.
No, yeah. Oh, that is a good point. I forgot to think about that. That you would have to translate them into Guilty Gear Strive's art style, and the detail of each model is insane. I think they would
translate well. It would just take a long time.
Take a lot of time, a lot of investment.
Because that also means, because they're in completely separate styles, you couldn't reuse Central Fiction assets. You would have to make brand new assets and redo all that.
Mankind knew that they cannot change society. So instead of reflecting on themselves, they blamed the beasts, heaven or hell.
It's been a while since I've seen that.
Come on, brother. Point your blade at me!
You again, Jin?
I'm going to give this my all. You ready?
Then I don't need to hold back. Soul versus
Bruh.
Kai.
Soul versus Kai is just way more wholesome. Like,
They're not trying to kill each other.
oh man,
I am late.
this dude.
Are you ready?
You're about to find out.
They're both still related though.
Yeah, true. Isn't
Soul, Rock.
Oh yeah, that's right. I almost forgot. Soul is technically the father-in-law.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, you're right. I think they agreed to never talk about it ever again, so we won't too.
Kai, and Jean. Yeah, normally we wouldn't do multiple character reveals all at once, but let's be real. All of you knew
yeah,
these
they
were
have to be
coming.
here.
There is zero tension behind this reveal because the moment you hear BlazBlue cross Guilty Gear, these are the faces you picture. Hell, this is the box art right here.
Exactly.
This is the red v blue, right?
This is the BB tag reveal of like either like Soul and Kai fighting each other, and then all of a sudden you see Ragna and then Jin pop out on the same side with the red and the blue, like this, just like this, but in the Strive art style.
I can even
Imagine.
see you could do it. Soul versus Jin, Ragna versus Kai. So you still have the red v blue, but it's you've swapped partners.
Yeah, that could work. That could work. I was thinking because of like the art style change, right? And the new models, it would be a little sneakier if you just had like, oh, it's a new Guilty Gear. But then, no, it's not.
You walk into the store, this is the poster that you see hanging up there promoting the game, telling you to pre-order it now. And
Yeah.
for good reason.
1000%.
You've got a red-clad, gruff, loner, anti-hero protagonist whose origin is tied into the backstory of the world, and their blue and white-clad blonde rival who works for the top law enforcement agency of the game. I'd say that about 75% of the reason why everyone wants these games to cross over is because of these four characters right here. Oh, they've even got some pretty good personalities and backgrounds that'd be great to see clash with each other in either the story mode or in the in-game dialogue. Soul Bad Guy is a bounty hunter. Ragnar the Blood Edge is an outlaw with a cartoonishly high price on his head. Their initial exchange and reason for fighting writes itself. And Kai Kisk and Jin Kitsuragi might both be lawmen and soldiers of sorts. However, Kai has often gone against the people he works for because he wants to reach out to Gears and cares about others, while Jin is almost of the lawful evil alignment. He's cold-blooded and borderline sociopathic at times. So this is a great example of how characters from these two franchises can have so much in common that they deserve to pair up, but still have so much that separates them that would be a perfect excuse for them to fight. And I'll go ahead and let you know right now, that's kind of the philosophy for the rest of this roster. As I said, I want to get the classics. I want to get the newer faces. I want to get the weird obscure grabs, and I want a variety in playstyles. But I also want to grab characters who would be perfect matchups for each other, either in playstyle or in terms of
Arakune versus Faust.
That's the thing. Arakune might not even be like the random bullshit go character of the game, because Rachel also does that as well and throws items, and also Platinum the Trinity also just randomly starts throwing items with a complete RNG mechanic to her.
That's true, but I want the two weird, funky characters.
They could be the weird characters of the game. You have to have like the weird character for sure. We'll see what Thorgi picks.
Because even if he doesn't play as the random bullshit go, I think Arakune definitely fits that like oddball roster slot.
Personalities that could bounce off each other. And man, it is shocking how many more perfect pairings there are between these series.
We need 9 and Eno.
Now, before we move on from these four, as I said, in this game, all BlazBlue characters would get a kicked and dust attack, but Guilty Gear characters would now have some kind of a drive ability. And what I'm picturing for Kai is that his drive would be a short animation where he charges his sword with electricity, and for a limited amount of time, his slash and heavy slash attack would inflict the opponent with a shock stash that would cause them to move slower. Cool. In previous games, that stash would be tied to special moves that Kai had, so now we would be tying it to the drive ability. And as for Soul, well, in Strive, they took away his Dragon Install super that would put him into a charged state for a period of time. So I say that we make his drive a sort of taunt, and each time that you perform it, you fill up a little mirror. Once you have pulled off the taunt 5 times, he would then go into his Dragon Install form. If you play Dragon Ball FighterZ, think of it being like Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta's taunt that charges up his instant kill, which is another Arc Systems game, which means that this company already knows how to pull off an ability like this. I know some people might think that's too much of a downside to have to perform this.
Fighters like once at a friend's house, but I don't know much about it.
Most people have said that Marvel Tokon would very likely play similarly to, the most similar to fighters. So I honestly might get into it. I feel like it'll probably be a
hybrid of fighters in the GT tag demo test.
They did have the wall break mechanic, just like in Guilty Gear Strive, and it's probably Daisuke working on it as well. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be a mix. I feel like
there's going to inevitably be a lot of Strive in it.
So many times in order to unlock his Dragon Install. But remember, this would no longer be a super move. So if you managed to pull this off, you wouldn't spend any meter on it. Meaning, you could go into his form and still have full bar, allowing you to do crazy damage. But okay, as I said, those are the 4 most obvious choices for this roster. They're the ones you put in the big reveal trailer. They're the ones literally all of us saw coming. So now is when the show
What would be your hype character that you're hoping would get announced? Because you have the staple ones, and then with each reveal, you're like, there's the one character you always have to hope shows up.
I mean, outside of 9 and Eno, personal bias would be Bullet, but I would be so hype for Bang and Chip to go up against each other.
Yeah, that could be fun.
I need to see the 2 super fast ninja dudes dueling it out with each other.
Yeah.
What about you? I mean, outside of the Arakune and Faust.
Yeah. I mean, I know more on the Guilty Gear side, so my favorite characters are obviously Happy Chaos and Testament. So I would be wanting them to show up. On BlazBlue's side, I forget his name, but the little Attack on Titan dude.
Hibiki, I think is his name.
Hibiki, yeah.
Yeah, that could be cool. I don't know a whole lot about him, but his fighting style is pretty cool.
It begins. Now is when we have to start making some tough choices.
We gotta cut
The
people.
wheel of fate is turning.
No, that's pretty much a given.
Noelle and Elfels basically kind of had the same Rekka attack.
Justice are now but embers.
If you cannot provide an attorney, one will be provided for you.
Noelle?
What?
But
he's dead!
Okay, maybe they're not that tough just yet. Yeah, well, Guilty Gear really only has 2 main faces, and so does Kai. Noelle has...
Oh my god! Valkenhayn and Slayer!
Oh, you're right!
Yo!
Or if you wanted to, you could do Rachel and Slayer just to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, true. You could. I'm saying Valkenhayn because he has the dandy step move that Slayer has. Literally the same move, so... Yeah.
Always been the 3rd part of the BlazBlue franchise, so we need to include her. Now, in case you don't know the history and lore of BlazBlue, I'm not going to get into Noelle's whole backstory.
Wait, no! I just thought again! Potemkin and Tager! Yes! The 2 big dudes need to meet, and they need to grapple each other. I'm gonna pay to see that.
They both just grab, launch into the stratosphere, and slam to the ground.
Yeah!
Just holding each other.
I'm also trying to think, how could I add ABBA into the game with a pairing? Who would be the pairing for ABBA from BlazBlue? I can't think of one, unfortunately.
It is indeed long and super complicated. Unlike the rest of BlazBlue, which I'm sure is a straightforward and easy read.
Yeah, totally.
But essentially, Noelle was this young girl who worked under Jin and was tasked with bringing in Ragna, and she just happens to look exactly like their long-dead sister.
Just so happens.
There is a reason she is often depicted as the 3rd face of this franchise. She's the string that ties Ragna and Jin together. But that's not the only reason to include her. She's also got a super unique playstyle. She uses guns as her primary weapon, but not necessarily for projectiles. Instead, each time that she does a basic attack, a burst appears.
Equivalent in terms of spot in the story, as opposed to playstyle.
Out the tip of her gun, which can give her some pretty decent medium-sized range. She can also form little spheres of damage around the stage, which gives her some decent range without just using basic projectiles. And that might sound like she's a character who takes lots of playing and experimenting to get used to, but she's actually a great character for new players as well, as she has a drive ability where essentially her guns fight for her, and she can now start doing auto combos and everything strings together, making her a great character for anyone.
Actually true. Money and Testament. And also now that I think about it,
that could be my hype pair. I would be down for that.
Jacko and Mu 12, they kind of have a similar thing going on. Mu 12 sets up like a bunch of turrets on the field and shoots lasers through them, whereas Jacko has her little robots that she throws, of course. Maybe.
Yeah.
One to pick up. Now, as for who her Guilty Gear
counterpart is just Noelle,
would be,
so.
Noelle is a very sweet young girl who, as I said, helps to tie the two main rivals of the series together. But she's also got a bit of a secret to her, as she is an artificial creation with overwhelming power. So her Guilty Gear counterpart has to be...
Yeah, that works.
Here comes Daredevil.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
the good girl that helps keep things together. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, she's also like hanging out with
Dizzy.
Kai a lot
Dizzy
too,
checks off a
so.
lot of different boxes for this roster. Major character
Just
important
like
to the
Noelle and
franchise.
Jin.
Yep, she was the big focal point of the Guilty Gear X games. Is she a fan favorite? Oh, heck yeah.
100%.
People love Dizzy, and she's high on the
that would
list
be
of
a
characters
hype
that people
reveal.
want as DLC in Strive at the moment. So in case she doesn't end up making it into that game, we can put her in here to make those fans
She did,
happy enough
though.
to perk up
She
and
did.
pay attention.
Yay.
And one other checkbox worth mentioning, this is the meeting of the two biggest Arc Systems franchises around. So we want to show off what makes Arc Systems special, and their fighting games are always gorgeous. And I think Dizzy might be one of the best animated characters in Guilty Gear history.
Yeah,
she's
she's
got a
really cool.
literal angel and devil on her shoulders that do the fighting for her, and just look at the details in their animation. Seriously, the amount of personality that is put into every single one of their actions is stunning and has led to some of the best special moves and insta-kills in the entire series. And when it comes to how she could fit the dynamic between the characters,
are great. I love
This
them
one
so
was
much.
funny. No, don't hurt him! Nuke behind him. Well, I'll give up. And I hope Thorgi was happy with the Dizzy reveal for Strive, because her animations in that game are impeccable.
she is a perfect match for Noelle. First, they're both powerful, extraordinary beings who are actually just sweet and wholesome young girls.
Yeah,
Give us a scene in
that
the
makes
story
sense.
mode where Noelle transforms into her Mu 12 form and she goes head-to-head with Dizzy. That is a scene that justifies both of them being included in here all by itself. Also, as I said, you know you have to have a scene of Ragna and Jin across from Sol and Kai. Well, since Noelle is very much the third part of the Jin and Ragna team, if Sol and Kai need a third, Dizzy just makes sense. She's Kai's wife and Sol's kinda daughter?
Daughter, yeah.
もしかして
Oh my
母さんの
god,
躍
we're
進
going through the scene!
その話題は
Yeah!
何の話だやめろと言ったはずだいいか今から皆何も考えるな待ってくれそうかその話はディズィはジャスティスの娘でつまり
ちょっと待って。
いや嘘だまさかそれが私の音カイ
Yeah, it's complicated. Anyway, point is, the three of them do have...
Man, I love these games so much. Oh. These two idiots, man.
Yes.
have some pretty strong ties between themselves and makes Dizzy check off almost all the same boxes that Noelle does.
Look at all
Now,
Testament.
speaking of characters to include because of their playstyles, there is one style of fighter that we have to check off now before it's too late.